What's up, YouTube? I know it's been about a week or so since I posted, but I've been pretty busy. Also, there's been, the holiday break between 4th of July and all these other things going on this past week with the trial being put aside for a couple of days. Had a little break. Now we're back in action. Melly's back in trial, and the defense has gotten down to their last witness. And at this point, the lead investigator is, I want to say he's cooking, but there's just a lot of dull moments in the courtroom in terms of, this whole dispute between whose phone it is. The prosecution is going so hard to put the ownership of this phone in Melly's hands because it's probably the most incriminating piece of evidence as of yet so far. I didn't finish off watching the rest of today's deliberation, but there was only an hour left in it, so not much would have changed. It's still just a bunch of series of text messages. However, there are a few points to go over today, and I think they are very, very important in terms of determining, whether or not this case is going to be a jury hang-up or if Melly's going to get acquitted. But I tell you right now, I don't think they got enough to convict him. So, stay tuned. Listen. So the first thing I kind of wanted to get into today was that this phone was probably the most incriminating evidence that puts Melly at the crime, volunteers all kinds of information, who he spoke to, where he was at, what he was doing around this time, before this time, after this time. So the phone is like the best thing to the prosecutor. The phone is pretty much what they have. This is like the best thing that ever happened to them since sliced bread. That's how they're treating it. So these deliberations have been very long and drawn out, and the defense has been shouting objections left and right about the authentication of these phone messages, because according to them and according to the rule of law, in order for these phone messages to be authenticated, they would have to be read by either the sender, the receiver, or validated by the service provider. So having Detective Moretti come up here and basically just spew out all this information lacks credibility. And the reason why that's important is because later on, what can happen is that if, let's say that Melly is convicted, later on, they can basically bring it up in an appeal, and it would be something significant in an appeal situation. So that's what we're listening to right now.
Specifically in this extraction that has been put in, what are the two phone numbers that are being communicating in this chat report?
I also want to stop it here just to let you guys know that this gets confusing as opposed to who owns the phone and who doesn't. In the chat, I was hearing that the 9081 was someone else and that the 9807 was Sack Chaser, and it's also written as Sack Chaser. But I'm hearing from both, the chat and some of the other lawyers who were commenting during this whole session, was that it was actually the other number that was Melly's number, which is basically the 807 that has the Sack Chaser. So it gets confusing. Either way, these messages are going to show you that there were some exchanges before the incident happened.
the 9807 number, as well as the number for Mr. Williams, which is 9081.
And speak up just a little bit. You can't tell I'm slightly under the weather.
Okay.
Thank you.
Judge, can we approach? Yes. As I indicated to the court,
This is the objection I was referring to.
because I think the state is leading you astray and creating reversible error. When Detective Moretti was deposed on February of 2021, he indicated that he's not an expert. That's why the FBI was called to testify on these records. In addition to that, he went on to say,
Excuse me, listen, hold on. All right, extend, counsel, the same courtesy you expect, but not to be interrupted, all right? Go ahead, sir.
he went on to testify under oath that when you look at these chats, it's coming from one phone to another phone, correct? His answer, correct. And if I have your phone, for instance, I could chat with, and I use Mr. Haddad as an example because he was in the deposition. He said correct. And by looking at your phone, you would think that you sent Haddad that nasty message, like whatever, correct, correct. He goes on to say, in other words, would you be able to make the statement that one person received a call from Melly? And he goes, no. He goes on and testified. The question is, well, two people are speaking to each other, but one of them would have to verify that he's the person who responded or wrote the message, correct? And he says, legally, yes, sir. They have not authenticated one of these messages. They know it. He's not qualified to do that. They have to call one of the parties to authenticate it. That's why, with all due respect, we have been interrupting, coming sidebar, constantly on all of these messages. They are the state is leading you astray on this because they have not authenticated one message.
Now, the reason why this lawyer's tone is particularly high at this point is because they have objected and gone sidebar on every single published piece of evidence, and the judge has just been kind of letting it go, and it's really troubling that the judge is kind of doing this, especially since he's already had trouble with the state presenting, late evidence and, last minute things and stuff like that. Even yesterday, when they presented the evidence, basically what Moretti did was he basically recreated the situation, first by taking a helicopter and going over the entire span of, basically the crime incident from the time they left the studio all the way up to the time Bortland reaches the hospital. He also gets in a car at 3 o'clock a.m. in the morning and drives the entire route. Now that's OD. That is like, man, you wonder where all these tax dollars go, and how much resources our police enforcement is given. They're given a lot. So next time you think a cop can't do all this high-tech stuff, that they got to get the FBI involved, nah, bruh. Nah, they do this on the state level. They're gonna go above and beyond to convict you. So keep your hands clean. But yeah, basically this anger right here that you see from the lawyer is him getting frustrated with all this lengthy evidence that is honestly not as detrimental as it could be, but enough. It's all they have, and what they have is basically bullshit if it's not procedurally correct. So that's why these lawyers are getting on it, nitpicking, because they know this is planting a seed for a later appeal if things don't go their way.
And now they're attributing it to Williams talking to Melly, Melly talking to Williams, and that can't, there's no predicate for it. And even the witness knows that. So we would be objecting to all of this and moving to strike it all.
And just to play that forward logically, the way that counsel is arguing, if a witness is dead, there will never be.
Well, some heated arguments gone.
So now I want to go to Travis Glass. He was an interesting one in the courtroom yesterday. He made a comment about someone. Well, the lawyer asked him, did he smoke weed beforehand? And he basically made a comment that he probably should have, even though he didn't. So this is a real funny moment in the trial, probably the only funny moment, but the rest is just him explaining some things that didn't go on the prosecution's favor. So I'll just go through this right here.
Sure. Watch it.
Okay.
Oh, by the way, Travis Glass is the producer. So he's a friend, he's an associate of Juvie and Melly, but he's also the producer. So he's not just someone hanging around. He's there working with these guys.
So after the hospital, you went to Frito's house,
To the best of my knowledge.
okay? And what were you doing at the house,
Still grieving.
okay? Who took you to the hospital?
The cameraman.
Okay, do you recall his name?
Now, I know his face is blocked off, and at first I thought this was on purpose, but it looks like he's kind of ducking behind it, and later on in this interrogation, they're going to ask him to put it down, and he's going to have an objection to it. His reason is that he has, I guess, a lazy eye, or he's blind out of one eye. So you'll see him covering that left eye once that happens, but I just kind of wanted to make a note of that because he's kind of sitting or hiding behind the screen there.
Drew.
Right. And do you recall who took you from the hospital to Frito's house?
Same person.
All right. And before you left for the hospital, or actually, who went to the hospital with you and Drew?
Just Drew.
Okay. Who was at the house, Melly's house, before you left for the hospital?
Same people that was there when we got there.
Okay. And same people being the 4 people that entered the Mitsubishi?
Yes.
Okay. So you're at Frito's house. You mentioned, and I forgot exactly where you were in the house. Did you say where you were?
Drew was wrong.
Oh, no, not Melly's house. Frito's house. Where were you in Frito's house?
Outside.
Okay. And who was at Frito's house when you first got there?
Everybody that was in the house.
Okay. And it's because I don't know who everybody was or is, can you please specify?
Kobe.
So he was basically dragged in there because he's on another charge, and to avoid jail time, they forced him up on that stand, just like they did Mrs. Holmes. So his answers are going to be very short and reluctant, and he's trying not to snitch so bad, but he ends up doing it anyway. I mean, if you talk about giving valuable information that could be detrimental, then yeah, he's on the stand, and probably against his will, but it is what it is.
Melly. I'm on people I have to remember.
Okay. Was that the first time you saw Melly after you guys left the studio?
Yeah.
Was Melly wearing the same clothes or different clothes than when you saw him at the studio?
It was a new day. Nah, he wasn't.
Nah, he wasn't. You guys
He wasn't wearing the same clothes.
Okay. Do you recall what he was wearing?
So this was very, very important information that he just gave out. He basically just told them that Melly was wearing different clothes.
Just had on.
And that is big information because now we have reason to believe that for some reason Melly changed his clothes before arriving to Fredro's house.
Some shorts.
And how long did you stay at Frito Bain's house?
I don't know.
Right? Minutes, hours, days,
Could be minutes, could be hours.
okay? So not days,
Not even a day.
okay. And so when you got to Frito's house, was it light or dark outside?
It's like,
And you previously said yourself and Melly and someone else was at Frito's house. Was Frito there as well?
I think I did see him. I don't remember.
Okay. What happens while you're there? Like you're there, you're outside, what happens?
Grieving.
Okay. And you're grieving, are you grieving alone?
Yes.
Are you at the house, at any point in time, do more people come to the house or do people leave the house?
If they did come, I don't know. I was in the back.
Okay.
I was back there grieving.
At any point in time, did Melly leave Frito's house?
It came to the point when I was there by myself.
All right. So you were there by yourself. So the people that you previously said were there were no longer there, correct?
Right.
And so do you know where they went during that time?
I don't.
All right. And we're still talking about October 26th of 2018, correct?
Yes.
And this would be shortly after the hospital?
Yes.
All right. At some point, does Melly come back to Frito's house?
Around this time, I'm still grieving and getting a little, I don't know, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I guess Melly comes back,
Yeah, I guess they did come back.
right?
I don't know, I'm not sure.
Okay. And at some point, does Melly leave again, a second time?
I don't remember anything farther after that.
All right.
Me grieving, that was the last thing I remember was me grieving. I ain't been different.
All right. So before you end up in Griffin, if I were to show you a statement, would that refresh your recollection as to Melly leaving and coming back a second time?
I suppose so.
Under permission to show him his statement again?
Yes, Counsel.
Mr. Glass, I'm going to give you page 5 and page...
I'm going to pause this because I want to get to the part where the defense cross-examines them, and I want you to see what Melly's lawyer does.
Freedom. Freedom is why I love doing apartment deals, just like the one you're seeing on the screen now.
You mentioned, well, not you mentioned, let's see. I pointed out to you someone was, the person that was wearing the jacket that you identified as Melly was carrying something across his side or his back on the video. Do you recall seeing that?
I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so now I want to go to the text messages that they were going over. Some of them basically showing that there was some sort of conflict between Melly and Sack Chaser. So hopefully it's not too vague. Let's see some of these messages.
Sweat, tears in this. I seen a dream shit went too far in the future.
Now that message is foreshadowing. This is probably the most, like, I want to say cringy text message that I saw that seemed very, very incriminating and possibly would have been a home run had he not said it 2 months prior. Literally almost 2 months to the day at 8:24 on August 24th. The murder happened on October 26th. So literally 2 months before the murder happens, Nelly says this. He says, blood, sweat, tears in this. I seen a dream shit went too far in the future. It's like he had a premonition of some sort where things went too far. Is he referring to the murder? Who knows?
Continuing on to the 8/24/2018, 11:46 a.m. If you could republish that one.
Yes, ma'am.
So there's Twin, and then there's this other green bubble listed as Sack Chaser. I first thought that again that this was Melly. I thought that in the chat that they explained that it was Melly, but later on I'm told that Melly's the green bubble. Honestly, when you look at it, the fact that they both refer to their mothers at some point, you kind of gotta guess a little bit, because they both seem to have had some situations that involve their mothers, and they both seem to be talking in a manner of being close to the edge, but not quite there, but it could get there, type of thing. So this is why these text messages, I mean, they're confusing, they're hard to keep track of, and according to the defense, they're unauthenticated. So without these cell phone messages, I don't know how much of a case the prosecution has.
I want to make sure it's more ready first. You all sabotaging my character. Got people think y'all made me in shit while you all get treated like future. I peeped when I said I'm gonna put my music out. You said some, I forgot, but every time I do some creative, try to make it spark, you all start doing it as a group and make it look like our shit. And you, the one popping, go do it then. They think it's yours and feel like you don't fuck with us like that. Your vibe be way different when Riri ain't here. But we are artists. I put my powers, a lot of hard work to get everybody the way they is. I let you get my artists, but all of my artists too. I'm a bro that let get them, cause you from Florida and you ain't doing it right. And they give you credit over money. Money ain't nothing without my drip, so get right or some gonna flop.
And continuing on to 8/24/2018, 11:55, 52 a.m. from the 9081.
1 second. And I told you this shit is just like Young Mal and Quills. It's YNW CEO, me, you, Julie. Artist, Bort, Peso, Tay, Kobe, AG, and the rest and shit. You all don't like to talk about YNW goals and work on shit. You like to act like your mom and be on that type of fantasy life when Riri and all them gone. You don't talk to us about this YNW shit. You don't give everyone 5 bands each. None of that, or talk about future. You walk around here like you husband and wife, and then get kind of important people talking about my artist. One more chance, and you're going under to me like it's supposed to be. You just blowed. You can say, Joel, first time you rapped, I changed your flow. You rap like Wiz Khalifa. You can say you watched Young and Thug. If you did that, you a jacker. What they a call is, I isn't no jacker. I got relative tendencies as them got get right, do everything.
I gotta stop this, man. Man, what's wrong with our education system? I mean, this was so fucking hard to read. I can't even believe a person who received these messages can understand what it means. I mean, damn. I mean, I use some slang and some broken English in my text too. But man, these guys aren't even writing sentences. I mean, there's not one period in this, or comma, or quotations. I mean, it's like these motherfuckers just skip English altogether. I'm sorry, pardon my French. But this was frustrating, because now you finally get to see these text messages and you can't even read them. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous.
Thing at one time, not just make us look like kids, make sure everyone got a bitch in here. You all acting like you all bosses. Then one of you try your girl, you gone, cry, but then call us. Your artist got me looking dumb out here, and we worried about a bag.
And what does the 9807 reply?
I know you all CEOs, foo, and you know I fuck with is you talking about N-word. I'm happy you could drop all your shit, that's what I want. Don't ever think I want to see you shine. I appreciate you letting me get them boys to be my artist. That's real as fuck. What it seems like or what people think, we know what's going. We finna blow tell Tay and Bort, go get Peso and Chloe. I'm focused on all artists until it's our time to tour. Alright, God, I am you out. All I got to do is videos. We can start today.
In terms of during the course of this conversation, how often is money brought up?
Quite often.
So she's trying to attach a motive to this whole dispute over money, basically. And, you know, it's a couple bands here, a couple bands there. There was a mention of $5,000 mentioned earlier in the text. But overall, it's just basically her trying to get a motive for Melly. And I believe they had an hour left of deliberation, and they were still doing this when we were done. And they have another 2 hours for the prosecution to go over this. But after that, it's time for the defense to start swinging. And I think they're going to come out just swinging hard. I think we'll know after the first 2 days of the defense's argument whether or not Melly is going to skate on this one. Because I tell you right now, the evidence that we have in front of us, I was waiting on something big, you know. Like, I heard her mention to Travis Glass, she asked about the satchels. In fact, let me go over that particular part. She asked about the satchels. Now, I don't think anybody else is making this discovery. So, what I want to point out here is that this guy has a satchel on, and I believe Juvie in the black jacket here has a satchel on as well. In fact, I want to see them both wearing it. So you see this? This bag right here is in Juvie's hand. So Juvie has a satchel, and this tall gentleman right here who gets into the red vehicle has a satchel.
I'm going to pause at 2:19:13.
Now, if you were watching the trial, she asked investigator Moretti about these satchels and about, you know, whether or not he discovered a satchel on the crime scene. The phones were found, some Gatorade bottles, some weed was found, but this satchel that was on YNW Juvie, at least up until now, was never discovered. So I was thinking that at some point she was going to be able to say that, you know, they triangulated the area and they discovered a satchel, because she did ask about it. And she may be saving it for her kicker, and that would be very smart to do, because there's either a weapon in that satchel, there might be additional evidence, fingerprints, DNA on that satchel. We don't know what's in that satchel bag, but the fact that it went missing in the middle of a murder scene means that either YNW Melly took it or Juvie took it, and they disposed of it because it was not in the car. So I am wondering why she asked about that, and I'm hoping it comes back up, because if it doesn't come back up, then that means that this is all they have, and the defense is gonna pretty much, I think, have very much of an easy job just proving that you can't put Melly in that back seat. So leave a comment, like or subscribe when you get a chance. Thanks for peeping in, and thanks for support. You're watching the Noel narrative. Be easy.